Welcome back to part 2 of our discussions with candidates for City Council. In this program, I'll be chatting with Anthony Beckford, Jovia Radix, and Xamayla Rose, 3 of 10 candidates who are gearing up for a special election. This is to fill the City Council seat vacated by Jumani Williams. Mr. Williams has moved on up. This empty seat in the 45th Council District covers East Flatbush, Flatlands, Marine Park, and Midwood, and it must be filled very soon. More than 188,000 people live in the district, and we have some of them in the studio. Welcome to Brooklyn 45. Let's welcome our guests. Jovia Radix is an attorney and member of the New York State Bar Association. She has served as Brooklyn Regional Representative to the New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo and is currently Vice President of the Thomas Jefferson Democratic Club, the Young Democrats. Xamayla Rose serves on the board of Community Board 17 and is Managing Director of Policy and Advocacy of the Christopher Rose Community Empowerment Campaign. She has dedicated her life to combating and addressing the systemic causes of violence that occurs too often in many Brooklyn and New York neighborhoods. Anthony Beckford is the founder of Black Lives Matter, an organization that advocates for the Black History Education Bill. He is the leader of the Brooklyn sector of Copy Watch Patrol Unit. That's a police accountability group that controls and looks at documents and protests police interactions with Brooklyn communities. Welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you. Thank you.
My first question is, why are you running for City Council? I've always heard ladies first, so we're going to begin with Xamayla.
Sure. So I'm running for City Council specifically because I want to reinvest in the people who live in a district. Like you mentioned, our district is very large, it's diverse. We have a huge senior population as well as different ethnic groups. And to me, I feel like over the last few years, there has been very great efforts to advance the district and to support women, children, and the different ethnicities. And there's actually room for more of that. We need more investment in our schools. We need investment in housing opportunities, not just for affordable housing, but even home ownership opportunities. And that's something that I definitely want to be able to bring to the district as the next City Councilwoman.
Jovia Radix.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I want to be the City Councilwoman for the 45th Council District because the 45th Council District has given me everything. I am a direct result of that district. I was educated in that district. I was raised by that district. And I would like to invest in that district what that district invested in me. The 45th Council District is a beautiful place with diverse people. We have built a community there, a community that has worked together to build what is, to me, the best part of Brooklyn, the best of Brooklyn. And we can only continue to build as we move into our future. As the future moves as we move forward as a city, the 45th Council District cannot be left behind. So I'm running for City Council in the 45th Council District because I believe that I can help move us into that future. And I believe that we need to invest in our children, we need to take care of our seniors, and we need to invest in our economic development as there are small businesses all over our community that we have to help thrive and flourish. So I am running for City Council in the 45th Council District because the 45th Council District never gave up on me.
Anthony Beckford.
Well, I'm running for the 45th City Council District because of the fact of there needs to be a voice. You know, you have a vacancy in the seat now, but even when it was occupied, you know, there was things being done, but there could always be more. You know, there needs to be fighters who have been in the community fighting on the ground to make things happen, to make change happen. You know, a lot of the people, you know, who say they want to run, you know, a lot of them are beholden to other electeds, you know, but myself, you know, I'm not beholden to any elected. I'm not beholden to any, you know, big money corporations, so forth like that. I'm beholden to the people. You know, been with the people since the age of 12, since you know, when I first became an advocate and an activist, you know, fought against, you know, the, racist rezoning of our school districts, and went on from there to help fight, for housing for our seniors, for the youth, and basically keep the homeowners protected, police accountability, especially, with myself bringing Black Lives Matter into Brooklyn itself, which is why I'm the president of Black Lives Matter Brooklyn, and then, bringing more of a voice to the people and letting the youth know that somebody's actually there to represent them. Let the youth know that somebody actually cares, because there's a disconnect between the seniors and the youth, because that's the way it was designed within our community. So now it's time to bring unity back into our community, but it also being the fact that we have various parts of our community, like Midwood, Marine Park, Flatbush, East Flatbush, and Flatlands. It's time to not just let it be a community that has different ethnicities, but to bring it as one fold, as a unified front against every single thing that has come against it.
Let's talk about gentrification, which is becoming a problem across Brooklyn in so many communities, and also here in the 45th District. How do you plan to fix this? And we're going to begin with you.
Simple as that. I've been with many housing organizations, throughout the city and throughout our district, fighting to keep, seniors, homeowners where they belong in the community. One of the things we've been doing is holding the crooked landlords accountable and the greedy developers accountable as well too. I have a housing justice bill that I'm ready to pass within my first 30 days. I'll become a city council member, for the 45th District, and the top priority in that bill is rent rollbacks. New York City hasn't had a rent rollback since 1971. It is long overdue now, because we can't just set caps and feel that, okay, well, they could pay up to this amount and they're good. No, people need to stop surviving and be able to live, and that's the thing. You should not be able to have to choose between your rent and putting food on the table to provide for your family. I'm a single father. I go through these decisions every day. I'm a member of this community. I can only see and imagine and hear the cries of others in the community as well too. So it's time to put a full stop to it. Not just give lip service, but put action into effect.
Thank you, Anthony. Now, Jovia.
I really sit down and think to myself. I left, I went to law school, I came back, and you can't afford to live in the community that you grew up in, the communities that your families worked in, built for us, and that is just not right. And when we speak about housing, I think housing is one of the biggest crises that we have in our community. We have to think about what is affordable to us as a community, and what that affordability means, and how we make sure that that is implemented in our community. I think the other thing that we have to think about is predatory landlords in our communities that seek to get rid of the people who have been there for years in order to get these market rate rents in the apartment buildings that they own. As an attorney out of law school, I worked in housing law, and I was terrified to see that in the housing court downtown Brooklyn, there are 12 sections, 11 of which are for landlords to sue tenants for the non-payment of rent, but one of which are for tenants to sue landlords for unlivable living conditions. It is something where it just makes it easier for landlords to get away with what they've been doing. I think we have to work with our justice system, we have to work with our court system, and we have to work with organizations such as the one I worked with in law school, like Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A, that helps them form tenant associations and helps them understand the power in their numbers in these districts so that they can go in and have these conversations with landlords about the things that they need fixed, instead of thinking that their only option is to move out of a community that they have built.
Xamayla?
So when I think about gentrification in our community, specifically like the East Flatbush and the Flatbush communities, I'm just reminded of how my family came here in the first place. And before the community looked the way that it does now, it was very different. And I think about how my family in the 60s came here and we purchased property, right? And many of us who currently live in this district have been in this community for more than 30, 40 years. And what we're seeing, in addition to the fact that those who are renters can't afford to purchase homes, can't afford to purchase and rent apartments, even those who have homes right now, there's a crisis. Some of us, we're experiencing increasing property taxes. I have a neighbor that's at the end of my block, and every time I'm out and about and I'm talking to him about what's affecting you in the district, he tells me, well, when I first started a couple years ago, my property tax was $500. That was maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Now it's $5,000 a year. He's a pensioner. You know, he's retired. Him and his wife were city workers. They're labor. He was a sanitation worker and she was a teacher. Now they can hardly even afford to stay in their home. So in addition to, I mean, if we're looking at gentrification, we have to look at it from a personal perspective. Why are people leaving? And that's one problem. And also, who are the people who are being pushed out? So yes, we need regulations, stronger rent laws that help people to stay in their homes and combat predatory landlords. But then we also need to look at what are some of the policies that the city has right now that disproportionately affects Black and brown communities, or even 1- and 2-family homeowners, and increases our property taxes without necessarily looking at how, you know, what other people are paying. So for me, it's about really investigating how are these policies equitable for all of us, for homeowners, how are they equitable for renters, and how do we keep the people who are living in their communities now there to stay there long term if they want to. Me personally, I don't think it's affordable if a studio apartment is costing $1,500 in a neighborhood that every now and then you still hear gunshots popping off. Like, it's just not, it's unacceptable.
Let's get your education. Jovia, we're coming to you with this question. 70% of the New York student population is Black and Hispanic. Yet, only 10% get admitted to the 8 elite high schools. Now, Corey Johnson is saying that's not good enough. He's saying it's time to act now, to fix it. How do you respond to that?
It's been time. It's not time now, it has been time to fix it. The fact that there were 697 seats for Stuyvesant and 7 of them went to Black and brown children in this city that make up a majority of the children in our school system is a problem. And this problem didn't happen this year. This problem has been happening. We need to ensure that our children have the same resources. There's money being fought for by the Campaign of Fiscal Equity that our children still do not have. And our children need to know that we are fighting for them to get the same resources as the children who have the abilities to walk in, take those exams, and pass them. Our children are not stupid. Our children are not inferior. Our children, if given the same resources, would come out with the same results. And I think that's something that we need to look at. And it is no longer enough to say that it is not good enough, that we need more. We know that we need more, so let's start moving on more. Which brings me to, I believe that our children also aren't given enough options as far as vocational training, as far as options coming out of school. We have a low number of EMS workers now in the city. Maybe we should train our children to do that so that they can make money while in school to put themselves through school. They have beauticians licenses that we can help to train them to get in high school so that they will have options out of school. It's clear to me that everyone doesn't want to be an attorney and everyone doesn't want to be a beautician. But if we give them the options, if we teach them that there is a technological economy, that they can go out there and make the software for the video games that they play and the cell phones that they use, we prepare our children for the future. And we are not doing enough to prepare our children for the future, not the future that they're stepping into now.
Okay.
I mean, I'll second some pieces of that. In terms of the specialized high schools, what I would like to see in our district is more opportunities and more schools such as that built, or more schools like that created. The fact that we have all of these young people all fighting to get into these 8 specialized schools is ridiculous to me. It's bogus. And then when we look at, you know, who gets in and what they go through to get in, and we know that some families have access to resources that allow their children to test and retest. Pretty much they're learning a test, right? And so if you're a family and you don't have those resources to learn that test, you've just lost an important opportunity, even though your child may be bright. So that's an issue, but I feel like there's still room for more specialized schools and for more opportunities within the district. But I think a bigger problem is that in our particular district, in the 45th, that's a citywide problem, is that many of the parents who currently live there don't want to send their kids to the district schools that are in that are currently there. And I think for me, that's a problem, and we need to look at how we are actually forcing the state to provide funding for our schools that they're lacking. Our schools in our district could use more resources. Some of them, their gymnasiums, their cafeterias are broken down. They don't have the adequate infrastructure to even provide modern day technology and skills training for these young people. So for me, I feel like that's where the emphasis needs to be, not so much on those testing programs, but yes, creating more specialized district schools and also investing in the schools that currently are there on the grounds. We have to look at why parents are choosing to opt out of the district schools and why they're spending $20,000 and $30,000 a year in private schools and sending their kids to charter schools at alarming rates. I know in a conversation that I had with the superintendent recently, they said they're losing the students per capita at very, very high rates, and that's because parents are opting out of district schools. And if we can support those district schools, provide those resources, then we'll see a difference in our students' performance.
Okay, Anthony, it's your turn. Are we going to have a question from the audience right after you? Okay.
Well, I definitely agree, with both points. Another thing is the fact of, we definitely need funding for CFE. There's many organizations like AQE and so forth that are actually pushing for this funding. But one thing that we are missing is the $1.4 billion that's owed to our schools, within the New York City. With the SAT test, it's a right to test, but then when you're only teaching to test, that's only one structure. But then there's also traumatic experience that these students have because of this, which also goes into the state testing. And there's many students now that their parents are actually beginning to opt out of even just the state testing alone. Because of the fact of that when you're only focusing on that, what else are the children learning? They're not learning social skills. They're not learning, vocational skills. I remember when we used to have shop in schools. I remember when you had options, and jobs used to come to the schools to employ the teenagers at that time. But now they're not having that. Many of the schools within our district, they need more funding in order for them to have coding classes, so that way they can, develop the programs and the cell phones and so forth. Give them access to their right, to own their future. If they're not owning their future, what else do they have? They have, okay, well, I would just work 9 to 5 and that's it, and struggle to pay that rent. Everything starts from when they were babies. One of the reasons why I picked up to become an advocate at the age of 12. From then, I learned that they were taking money out of our schools. From then, I learned that rezoning meant, more segregation. Our school system is the most segregated and the most racist throughout this whole country. And we have to ask ourselves why. That's because there's old legislation still put in place from the Jim Crow era and stuff like that needs to be abolished. New legislation needs to be put forth. New voices need to be heard. There needs to be new bodies in legislation to make sure that they pass this coverage litmus test. Because a lot of people provide lip service, but these children's lives are not they're not subpar. They're not just there for you to gain votes off of or to have media bite off of. Their lives are very serious. And again, with myself being a single father, I take my daughter's education very, very serious. And I take all the rest of the children in our district education very serious, which is why, I team up with various organizations to provide them with the resources and access to resources that is not provided with them at the schools. But we definitely need to fight for the funding, we need to fight for the resources, and we need to hold the chancellor and the mayor accountable.
Okay. We have a question from one of our audience members. I think our audience members are a little afraid to ask questions, and I don't know why. Health insurance. 600,000 New Yorkers are uninsured. 540,000 are undocumented. Mayor de Blasio has this plan which he calls health care for all. Do you support this, and why? Xamayla, we're going to begin with you.
Great. So, when I think about the 45th District and healthcare, what I actually would prefer to focus on is the fact that we have a maternal death crisis in our district. A few months ago, I actually sounded the alarm on this issue. It's not that it's just starting, but it's not being addressed. appropriately. So the nonprofit organization that I have with my family, that's one of the issues that we've been working on and focused on, and that's educating Black women about maternal morbidity. It's called maternal morbidity or maternal death. It's a better explanation. And we know that at this point in our city, Black women are 8 times more likely than a white woman or any other woman to experience maternal morbidity during the process of giving birth to their child, which means they would experience adverse risk, adverse experiences that may complicate their birth and may even lead to death. So when I think about healthcare and I think about our district, I think about all of the brown and Black women in our district who are struggling. They're working class. Some of them are immigrants, and they may not have healthcare that's accessible to them. They may not know where to seek care. Many of them are immigrants. Maybe they're first generation Americans, or first time they're coming here. They've traveled here, they've migrated here from their countries, and they don't know how to navigate the healthcare system. And so there needs to be more education about how do you get services, how can you access services, and even where are the federally qualified healthcare centers that you can access if you don't have health insurance. So right now, if you're an immigrant person and you don't have health care, there are clinics and places that you can go to that are high-performing medical institutions who can serve you. Do they know that? I don't think so. So what we've done in our organization is that we've provided an opportunity for these clinicians to come into our space and work with our clients and work with our moms and our families. And they come on the spot, like whether we're doing a vision board party or whether we are doing some type of sporting event, they're there. And they can make appointments, whether it's behavioral health, mental health services, substance abuse care, OBGYN, or pediatrics. Our healthcare partners in the community are there. And I would like to see more of those types of partnerships in our community. We're just one nonprofit organization, and that's an initiative that we have, but it's definitely something that we should do throughout the entire district for those populations.
Thank you, Jovia. Your turn, Anthony.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. Healthcare is a big thing. As you can see, I'm a disabled Marine Corps veteran. The medication alone is high, but that's because of Big Pharma. Big Pharma is, basically putting the rates out there that your medication should be. So something that you could go elsewhere and get for $3 or $14 is costing you thousands of dollars. To me, that is a crime in itself. De Blasio's plan, it's all right, but I'm supportive of the New York Health Act, which is a statewide bill that's being pushed forth. It was introduced by Assembly Member Gottfried. And with the New York Health Act, no matter your income, no matter your income level, no matter your immigration status, no matter your gender, you have coverage, but not just any coverage. You have adequate health care. To where that you're able to go without fear of, am I going to be seen or am I going to be turned away? Am I going to get the same equal care to this person who's making $300,000 a year, or am I going to get subpar care? One thing that I love that they included in there was, more access for those with disabilities within our communities, but then also they're working with the doulas. With us in our communities, birth doulas are key. They've been around for years, and we have to be able to provide access to the mother, for the mothers to actually have doula services provided to them. But on top of that, we have to make sure that the doulas also receive livable wages. So it goes hand in hand to make sure our community keeps on thriving in a healthy fashion.
We're almost out of time. I can't imagine this. I'm going to give you 30 seconds each. What is your overall vision for the 45th District? And I'm going to begin with you, Jovia.
Yes.
30 seconds.
My overall vision for the 45th Council District is the 45th Council District would be a place where the rest of the city wants to model themselves after. We are a diverse community. We are a community of people who have worked hard, who have paid off their homes, who have done what they had to do, and they have created a community that we are proud of. And I would like to see the 45th community move into the future even more proud than we are of what we have accomplished.
Okay, Anthony, you've only got 30 seconds.
All right. So my vision for the 45th District is for us to become more empowered, for us to expand on what we have now, for us to take back our rights, take back our voice, take back our political power, take back our economical power. I want to see, and I actually see small businesses able to thrive and not worry about being displaced. I see seniors able to continue living in the community and continue with the intergenerational wealth that belongs in our community. I see the youth being empowered and actually making their voices heard and stepping up to the plate to become the next leaders.
And Xamayla, you're 30.
As the next councilwoman, I want to make sure we have strong and healthy families, that we have resourced and high-performing schools, and that our small businesses are sustainable. That's my plan for the district.
Oh, you really used up 30 seconds.
Can I take an extra 15?
Oh, we've got 1 minute. That's enough to... Oh, you do have the question? Come over here very, very quickly. And you have to decide who's going to ask this question. Okay, go on.
I'm going to go with Jovia.
Okay.
Great. My question is, what do you think is the most pressing issue in the 45th District, and what is your plan in implementing to fix that?
I think our most pressing issue in the 45th District right now is housing. I drive down New York Avenue and watch the developments as they go up and know that they are going up and not for us. And I watch as third-party transfer takes over and people begin to lose their homes, not realizing the laws in this city allow them to pay off a home and lose it for the non-payment of taxes. I would work very hard in the council to ensure that there are better third-party transfer laws in this city and better third-party transfer awareness in my district, so people would understand what it is and how it could affect them.
Okay. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'm going to give both of you 30 seconds. Go. 30.
Wait, what's the question?
The most pressing issue.
Most pressing issue.
Go on, Anthony.
Implementing to fix those.
Anthony, go.
Oh,
30 seconds.
I agree. Housing.
And you're going to...
Like I said, I'm pushing for rent rollbacks, pushing for eradication of MCIs, IEIs, and preferential rent, taking those out the leases completely, also abolishing the TPT program.
Okay. Xamayla.
The most pressing issue would be finding low-income and affordable housing for seniors as well as for everyday people like you and me.
Well, thank you, Anthony Beckford, Jovia Radix, and Xamayla Rose. 3 of 10 candidates participating in a special election to fill the vacant City Council seat in the 45th City Council District. That covers East Flatbush, Flatlands, Marine Park, and Midwood. You can also watch this program on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Brooklyn45TV. And you can see the full list of all the candidates who are running on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/Brooklyn45TV. This is Brooklyn 45.